Hello and welcome to the Team Conti Sim Performance Week 6 track guide for the NASCAR NextGen car. We are at Rockingham Speedway, and I'm going to take you for a 30-lap run around this track and go over some of the do's and don'ts as we look forward to next week. Now, specifically with our TCSP setup for Week 6, it'll be primarily a 4th gear setup with the option to shift to 5th down the front stretch if need be, whether you're on fresh tires and making a lot of lap time, maybe you're running the top and carrying more momentum. That shift to 5th, especially down the front, may be necessary, and with this gear ratio you'll have that option to do so. For the most part though, you'll want to stay in 4th, keep that RPM up so you can launch up off the bottom and leave the corner with lots of momentum. Couple different lines that are viable around Rockingham. As always, typically when you move off the bottom and you start carrying more speed, you're going to use a little bit more tire. This week is no different. However, with the low track temps, it gives you a little bit more flexibility to be able to run up the track earlier in the run without necessarily killing the tires and putting yourself at a disadvantage later. So I think what you'll find in your races, you'll find a lot of people going to the top early to make lap time, and it's also going to be the best defense mechanism. By going to the top, very, very, very hard to pass in the bottom when somebody's ripping the fence and cutting off your exit. For the purposes of my baseline runs this week, I've started the runs on the bottom for the first 20 laps, and then I would move up to the top the last 10, because that is truly where the speed was at that point in the run, and in keeping that consistent methodology, I was able to really see if the changes were helping long run or if it was just coincidental based on line. So limiting variables like I always talk about, keeping the runs the same. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to move around a lot more, try a lot of different things, because this is to show everybody watching what's possible. So I'm going to try not to be too stiff in how I approach this. So first 5 laps have been on the bottom. I'm going to try the middle right here. Middle's typically pretty decent in 1 and 2. 3 and 4, it's a little bit more of a no man's land. There's some big bumps in here, but it should still be good if I can exit with some good throttle, which I did. You can see right there I kept it in 4th gear. Didn't really lose a whole lot, maybe a 100th or 2. And once the times fall off just a bit more, it's not really going to be necessary to shift. We have a very, very high humidity this week, so if you do get a race with significantly less humidity, having to shift is going to be more necessary, but with 80% humidity, definitely down on a bit of power, so it's made it a little bit easier to keep it in 4th for longer. So yeah, middle, or not even middle, like a lane off the bottom is working pretty well at both ends, pretty stable, no problems there. Go up a bit higher right here, overdrive entry a bit, use a little bit more brake to the center, and then try to cut it down on exit. Right there I got loose doing that. Same thing here, overdrive entry a bit and then try to cut down, but yeah, so that's probably not what you want to do. You can see there it's about 1/10 slower. Go back to the conventional bottom here. See, I lose time on entry, but I'm going to gain it all back, center off, because I can keep the car much smoother, interacting with a lot less bumps. Same thing at 3 and 4, heavy throttle. That 1/10 deficit is all gained back. We'll go even higher right here, 1 and 2. Kind of enter a little bit low, slide up in the center, exit high. Same thing in 3 and 4. This is really going to be the line in 3 and 4. You enter really, really hard, about a lane off the bottom, and you just catch that top and power up off. Lots of speed doing that. 1 and 2 is the same way. It's definitely a lot harder to make it work. Very easy to hit the wall in the center, but as you can see there, I did that well that time, about a 1/2 tenth up. having to shift down the back because I'm carrying a lot more speed. A lot of bumps up top, just need to watch for that. Very easy to hit the diffuser and get loose. I'm going to go back to the bottom here, and you'll see even at this point in the run, bottom is nowhere near as quick as the top. I think it's going to be even more noticeable down here into 3. Gain a little bit through the center, but then all back on exit, about a 1/10 down. So I'll do this for a couple laps. I'll cool the tires back off a bit, and then I'll go back after it up top. Quite a bit of flexibility in the brake bias this week. You'll find entry to 3 is a little tight. We got a big wind that's affecting that. So again, depending on that wind direction, that'll change the handling of the car in your races. But if the wind stays in the same direction as it is in our baseline weather, northwest, you're going to be a bit tight into 3. So feel free to dial some brake bias out of it so that when you get to the brake, you can induce a little bit more rotation versus being front limited. But so far so good. 15 in right here. Good neutral handling. Haven't fallen off very much at all. Hot lap is a 32, 33 on the bottom. I'm at a 51 right there. Low track temp, low tire temps, low wear as a result, so not as much fall off at this point. But back to the middle. See how that works. Not bad. Probably gain a little bit back on exit. Still a net negative by a couple hundredths there. Try my low entry into 3 with a high exit. Struggled to find the throttle there a little bit, but still going to come up off and be a little quicker. Back to the bottom here. Really hug that bottom. You can get all over that yellow line on exit. Just got to watch for that oversteer like I had there. Back to the bottom in 3. Try to gain time back center. About break even, and then probably lose a couple hundredths. Still a good lap. Back to the top here. In the throttle early, watch those bumps, commit, get a nice run up off. Big momentum into 3, catch that top, and just throttle up. Back to the bottom for 20. Good exit. Really good exit for the bottom, honestly. It's a good corner. Missed the bottom a little bit right there, so that was some of that tight entry I talked about. Got up off the bottom. It still caught the grip, so not bad. A little brake bias out of it. We'll try again this lap. Corner. That rock sign right there into 3, that's where I'm lifting off. A little more brake right there, that seemed to help. Throttle up earlier. A little slower, but felt better. Go back to the top here. And commit to throttle. Big speed up off. Big corner right here. Nice exit. Back into the 5s, almost touching a 4 again. Really easy to overdrive entry to 1 when you're running that top. You gotta be careful or you will smack the wall in the center. We have Darlington stripes, we have Rockingham stripes as well. Very easy to hit it. Up to the center, just like that. You can see it doesn't cost you a whole lot of time. That doesn't really damage the car, so you can get away with that a few times, but don't want to excessively run into the fence. Better right there. Nice exit. Almost back into a 4. 25, 26 laps in. Pretty good. Back on the throttle. Had to wait to commit there and didn't really have the angle to have a straight drive up off the top. So lost a little time on exit. Still good lap times. A little more brake bias out of it right there. Charge entry a little bit more. Actually got a little loose on entry there, so that tells me that my bias is about as far back as I can have it. I was a little loose on entry to 1, but it definitely made entry to 3 better, so that's going to be your trade-off this week, trying to find a balance at both ends. Watch the wall. Watch the wall. Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. Alright, let me regroup here and try to have a good last couple laps. Back up my entry a little bit. Okay, there we go. Nice straight drive up off. Good. I promise I know what I'm doing. Most of the time. I'll do one more lap right here. I drove it in hard. Back on the throttle. Good exit. I'm gonna give it everything it's got into 3 here. Slide it up to the fence. And complete 30 at a 23.63. Do a pit road entry right here. I doubt you'll have to make a pit road green flag pit stop. Woohoo! But just in case you do, let's give it a shot. And there we go. There you have it. A little conservative right there, but not bad overall. And you know, you'll roll through pit road. We'll just speed this process up a little bit. And you'll make your pit stop. And then you'll launch. Watch, there's a couple bumps down here, a little banking transition. Watch your merge line, and then merge off of 2. Go ahead and jump out of the car here and show a couple laps from outside. Let's give a decent hot lap right here, lap 4. So key to running this front stretch is to make sure that you're not too far down in the middle of the straightaway here, because if you are, like if you're down here at the start-finish line, your car is going to be angled up toward the wall at the point at which you should be entering and turning off the wall. So you want to keep it fairly close to the wall down the front stretch, even if that means not completely cutting the straightaway, you know, make optimal lap time. This will help your angle into 1. And what I mean by that is you can see once I get past the start-finish line, I'm already close enough to the wall to where I'm not ascending up the track anymore, getting closer to the outside wall. I can actually start to pull it off the wall in 1 movement. So I get out to my highest on the straightaway. I lift right past the rock sign. You're going to see a throttle blip. That's going to be the downshift right there. About 15-20% brake sustained through the entry. And this is running the bottom. So just pretty much clipping that yellow line, coming up off of it a bit in the center, with the goal of getting back down to it on exit. So a diamond when running the bottom in 1 and 2. In 3 and 4, I'll be as close to the wall as possible. It's a nice straight entry. And when I get to this rock sign, I want to be all the way off the throttle and starting to brake. That 15-ish% brake carried into and through the 3/8 mark. This one you're not going to slide up as much in the center. You want to hold it down pretty pretty well through the center of the corner, and then you start throttling up on exit and tracking out. Again, the way that the wind is with a northwest wind tight into 3 is pretty noticeable. If you dial that out completely, you're going to be crashing loose in 1 and 2. But what that does is that tight into 3 allows you, or so it seems, to be able to get on the throttle really early, center off, just because maybe you're like driving into the wind, not exactly sure what's going on, but you can really use a lot of throttle off of 3. Right about here, my initial throttle application's above 60-70%, and then I can commit pretty quickly there to wide open throttle. So that's running the bottom. Again, both ends key is to not overdrive entry, and it's to make sure you're positioning the car so you're not hitting the worst of the bumps. If you think back to earlier in the run when I tried to enter in the middle and slow down the center a lot and cut down to the bottom, I was interacting with the worst of the bumps and really upsetting the car. So you don't want to do that. There's plenty of lane options here, so you just got to find what works for you. As far as running the top, let's see, this probably was a good lap here. Top, you're probably lifting at about the same point, but you're carrying a lot more speed on entry. You're sliding up as high as you can go in the center, and then you're turning it back off the wall and to the bottom. Still diamonding, just way higher up the track. Into 3, this is a lot different. So remember when I was running the bottom, I was lifting right at the rock sign. Now when I'm targeting running the top, I'm driving in probably 2 car lengths deeper, less brake, more entry speed, and then catch that top and just full throttle, full commitment all the way up off of 4. And as you saw in some of my laps, it is very easy to hit the wall. The harder you push, the easier it is. That goes without saying. And also when it comes to tire management, the earlier you go up to the top, the quicker you are going to wear the tires out, and the easier it's going to be to overshoot entry and hit the wall. So the longer you can keep it toward the bottom of the track, the better. But still, as I said, you're going to be forced to run the top at some point, so definitely practice that before your races. Let's check the pit road entry right here. Into 3, normal line as if I'm running the bottom, but instead of committing to throttle, I'm going to start braking about halfway through. Nice straight shot off the track as always. And yeah, that was a little bit conservative. You could probably, instead of braking, where did I start to brake? So I started braking before the rock sign. With these tires, I could have probably driven past the rock sign by a car length or 2 and then more aggressively started to brake and made up more time here, but this was a good, solid, safe pit entry, which is what you're going to want in your races because you gotta weigh the risk versus reward. If you think you can make up a half a second, there's like a 10% chance of you actually making it onto pit road without speeding or crashing versus losing a half a second but having a 90% success rate. I would go with the 90% success rate, right? Just play your odds and depending on where you're at in the race, understand if you need to push more or less. If I'm out in front by 4 seconds, I'm going to use this type of pit entry. If I'm battling for the win and I know I need to make up some time, I'll probably push it more and see if I can make it work. So just having that awareness to understand where you're at in the race and respond appropriately. But overall, that is Rockingham for season 1 of 25. If you want to go back and watch our track guide from the last time we went here about a year or so ago, you're more than welcome to. Probably a lot of the same info, but there might be some more nuanced information for a hotter track versus this is a cooler track. So feel free to watch that as well, but I think this pretty much covers everything that should be of note for next week. Overall, though, as always, thank you so much for watching. We are at the midway point of Season 1 and quickly approaching the start of the new NASCAR season. So NIS will be starting soon. We'll be at Daytona soon in a couple weeks. So appreciate you checking out TCSP. Check out our website for all of our products and service offerings. And yeah, just really appreciate your support of the channel and what we're doing here. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Week 7, we go to Legacy, Texas. Should be fun, but in the meantime, enjoy Rockingham, and we'll see you next time.